How many times have you felt that you were donating too much and receiving less? How many unanswered conversations, empty promises, painful silences? And yet, you were still there, waiting for an entire attention. The truth is hard, but liberating. As long as you accept crumbs, it will never be served with a banquet. And no, this is not about each other, it's about you. Maybe no one has told you yet, but dignity is not begged. And self-love is not selfishness, it is emotional survival. In this video, I will show you how Stoicism, yes, this ancient and powerful philosophy, can be the key to breaking this cycle of grace and release yourself from relationships that only drain you. And if you think you need someone to feel whole, get ready to change your mind. Over the next few minutes, you will find out why keeping insisting on those who don't choose you is a silent way to abandon yourself. Let's talk about detachment, the courage to say enough, the peace that is born when you learn to be enough. Best of all, you'll get out of here stronger, more lucid, more whole. But first of all, a question: are you ready to stop accepting less than you deserve? We live in a time when speed has replaced depth. Relationships are disposable, feelings are immediate, and many are content with little just so as not to be alone. But human dignity cannot be exchanged for empty moments of attention. Marco Aurelio said, "Dignity consists of not depending on the approval of others." This is the basis of any true relationship: respect for yourself. Keeping one's dignity is an act of silent courage. It is resisting the urge to humiliate for affection, to explain too much, to run after those who show no interest. This is not proud, but clarity about their own value. When you recognize this, stop bending through any crumb and wait for what is whole. Society encourages the idea that any attention is better than none, but this creates a cycle of emotional dependence. A look, a quick answer, an empty message, and we already think there is hope. This weakens us, takes our focus, and drives us away from what is true. Dignity is to remain whole, even when the other offers only pieces. Those who live feeding on crumbs are always hungry, never satiates, because what it receives does not really nourish. Only the genuine presence, the reciprocal affection, the mutual respect can fill. Stoic does not seek quantity, but quality. Few bonds, but deep. Silence with peace, not noise with tension. When we learn to be well alone, we also learn not to accept any company. The absence it respects is worth more than the presence that decreases. And this consciousness begins with self-love. The question that remains is, are you loving yourself or just looking to not feel the emptiness? In Stoic philosophy, Epictetus teaches that no one can make you inferior without your consent. This goes for relationships as well. If someone treats you as an option, the decision to continue accepting this role is yours. You cannot change the other, but it can change what tolerates. This is dignity in practice. Saying I don't accept less than I deserve is no arrogance, it is respect. It is the limit that separates self-love from emotional submission. And once you draw this limit, it starts attracting people who see this value. The world treats you how it is about. Start around. It is natural to want something to work out, that someone see us, that a feeling is reciprocal. But when hope is not based on facts, it becomes self-deception. How many times have you insisted on someone who ignored you, just because you wanted to believe that one day would you change? Hope, when not accompanied by reality, becomes prison. Stoicism invites us to observe the world as it is, not as we would like it. Accepting that a relationship has not flourished is not failure. It is lucidity. It is to have the courage to see what is before our eyes. not to feed illusions that corrode us inside. We suffer more for fantasy than for the real absence. Epicteto teaches us, happiness is not in desiring things, but in accepting them as they are. This is not resignation, it is wisdom. When you stop creating unfounded expectations, you break free from unnecessary suffering. Peace comes from acceptance, not insistence. It is very easy to confuse attachment with love. The attachment makes you beg for an answer. Self-love makes you accept silence as an answer. If someone always leaves you, they are not building a bond, but holding you into a cycle. And this cycle only breaks when you decide to leave. Waiting is not wrong, but waiting too much, too long, from someone who has never come that ex-houses you. And when blind hope takes over, we waste time, energy, and even self-esteem. Stoic knows that one should not depend on the will of others to find peace. It starts inside. You can love and still leave. You can care and still decide to move away. This is emotional maturity. It means you have chosen yourself. Who, even with pain, understood that keeping waiting does not honor you. And no one grows up if you don't learn to release what only weighs. Real connections do not leave you in doubt. They do not hide after excuses or silences. When it's reciprocal, of course. When it is genuine, it is light. Everything that confuses you, wears you, or diminishes you, is not love, it's attachment. And attachment is the opposite of the freedom that Stoicism values so much. Solitude may be uncomfortable, but the wrong company costs more. How many times have you approached someone just to cover a momentary void? How many times have you left your peace in the background to keep someone around? These choices create fragile and painful ties. Accepting little does not solve the pain of absence. Just advance. Because deep down we know when we are receiving crumbs. And yet we insist. Not for love, but for fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of finding no one else. Fear of facing his own reflection. Seneca said, "Solitude is where you find your freedom." True emotional healing begins in silence, when we stop seeking in the other what we should find in ourselves. No one will fill your void if you don't respect yourself first. When we accept anything, we become anyone to each other. We lost our identity, we shape too much, deliver ourselves without discretion, and the other realizes that. And, unfortunately, tends to value less those who do not value itself. Give value before charging this from others. You don't need people to feel whole. It needs purpose, self-knowledge, clarity about who it is and what it deserves. Healthy relationships are not born of lack, but completeness. When you are well alone, it only approaches those who add, not the one who takes up space. Deep connections only flourish when there is truth. And there is no truth when you pretend to be okay just so as not to lose someone. Relationship is not a refuge of loneliness, it is an extension of life. And if your life is empty, any presence will seem enough, even if it hurts you. Do not confuse presence with company. There are people who are close, but not with you. There are people who respond, but don't care. There are people who smile, but wear out. Your dignity is more important than any goodnight forced or I miss you without action. Choose peace. Often, it is not the other who goes beyond the limits. We are the ones who do not put them. And without clear limits, we ended up hurting ourselves repeatedly. Saying enough is painful, but it is also liberating. It is recognizing that you deserve more than you have accepted. Stoic does not act on impulse, but by reflection. Before reacting, he observes. And when he realizes that something hurts him constantly, he walks away. Not for revenge, but out of respect. The phrase that guides this decision is simple: I no longer accept living in pieces to keep other integers. You are not being radical as you move away from those who hurt you. It is being fair. Fair with your mental health, with your energy, with your time. It is impossible to live in peace if every time you expect something, it comes frustration. 1 hour, you need to stop the cycle. The pain of walking away is real, but it is a pain that heals. It's like taking a thorn. It hurts at first, but relieves later. To insist on those who do not choose you is to keep the thorn dug, day after day. Only you can decide when the time comes to start it. And the sooner, the better. Don't expect the other to change. People only change when they want. And the truth is that often they want change. But you can change what tolerates. Can change what you accept. It can change the route. Power is in your hands, even if it seems difficult at first. Starting is scary but necessary. When you say enough, you are making room for the new. He is saying to the universe, now only what you honor me. And this vibration attracts what is compatible with its new frequency. Dignity is a powerful magnet. Saying enough doesn't mean you didn't love it. It means that you loved yourself enough not to continue to hurt yourself. It is a statement of courage, maturity, and self-care. And each time you choose yourself, the world understands how to treat you. When someone leaves you in a vacuum, without explanation, this person's silence speaks for him. And often, he says more than words they could say. Stoic knows he doesn't have to force an answer, he listens to what silence reveals. And often, what he reveals is disinterest. Wisdom is in interpreting absence as a clear presence. If it cared, there would be effort. When someone wants, it gets away. When you don't want to, it makes excuses. Accepting this hurts at first, but releases in the long run, because it keeps you from running after mirages. Silence, for those who have self-esteem, is not a void, it is a filter. It separates who really wants to be in your life from those who only appear when you need it. Epictetus said, "It's foolish to want things to happen as we want. We must want them to happen as they are." And silence is part of it. Instead of charging, note. Instead of insisting, reflect. Many times we are putting our energy in places that have no reciprocity, and that only generates frustration. To keep dignity is to understand that where there is constant doubt, there is not enough love. Respect those who move away, but more respect your space. You don't have to go after those who made a point of not staying. The other's silence can be painful, but it is also a mature response. Accepting it is taking a step towards your emotional freedom. If every time you speak, you feel begging, it is a sign that it has gone over the point. You deserve clear conversations, sincere looks, real ties. Who disappears and appears when he wants is not offering you presents, is controlling his hope. This is not fair to you. And remember, Stoicism is not cold. It is clarity. You can feel everything, but still choose what preserves you. And sometimes, the best choice is to accept silence with dignity and follow in peace. Because peace never depends on the other, but always on you. We all miss someone at some point. This is human. But when this lack becomes desperate for any attention, something is misapplied inside. The needy screams where self-love is silent. And as long as it dominates, choices will always be poor. Decreasing leads us to accept crumbs, to settle for last-minute invitations, with cold messages, without depth relationships, because we believe any company is better than ours. But Stoicism reminds us you are already complete. No one compliments you, accompanies you. Seneca said that who is happy alone is ready for any company. This means that when we are at peace with who we are, we stop running after people just so as not to think. Silence is no longer enemy and becomes a teacher. He teaches what is missing inside. Precise makes us forget our standards, makes us accept what we once swallowed never to accept, and that leaves us from who we really are. It takes courage to be alone until what is true, because what is true never makes you beg. You were not born to run after those who do not know how to stop for you. What is yours comes calmly, truly, constantly, not with confusion. The lack is in a hurry. Self-love has patience. And the difference between them is how much you respect yourself. While you are desperate for attention, you will always attract those who take advantage of it. And this dynamic houses you, weakens you, it gets sick. The cure begins in the mirror. When looking at with love, you stop accepting less than you deserve. The transformation begins at home. Stoic understands that the control of emotions is not to suffocate what it feels, but to choose what it is worth feeling. It is not wrong to want someone. The problem is needing someone to feel whole. Because no one who really loves you puts you in the position of begging love. There are people who appear when they want, disappear when they need it, and come back when it suits. This is not love, it is convenience. And convenience is the opposite of depth. Stoic learns to recognize these standards and move away from them without drama. Real love is supported by constancy, not in promises, but in presence, not in beautiful words, but in firm attitudes. Who really wants you, chooses you every day, even on difficult days, mainly in them. Because those who really feel do not play with the feel of the other. You don't deserve to be anyone's plan B. He was not born to be paused in someone's life. He was born to be an entire presence. And this will only be possible when you stop content with halves. Halves never fill their hearts. They only take up space. Constancy is what builds confidence. And where there is no confidence, there is wear. If you live trying to understand the other's mood, if all the time is in doubt, this is no relationship, it is emotional tension. And constant tension gets sick. Stoic prioritizes peace. You need to have the courage to set aside those who have never chosen you firmly. Not because you don't feel, but because you respect yourself. Respect is not luxury, it is base. And if that is missing, the rest collapses sooner or later. Who wants to be with you? Does not confuse you. Do not disappear. Don't respond coldly. It does not mark and uncheck. It does not create promises without action. Mature love is simple. And if you're being too complicated, it's because perhaps only one side is really loving. Choose who chooses you. Choose who stays. Choose who demonstrates. Stoicism teaches that true control of life is to choose with whom you share your energy. And this choice defines your emotional health. Your peace is sacred. Protect. A lot of people just remember self-love when everything goes wrong. When the disappointment comes, when the absence weighs, when the heart tires. But self-love should not be what remains, it should be what guides. It is the filter that prevents you from accepting little. Do not expect to be injured to remember your value. Do not expect to be ignored to start looking lovingly. Stoicism teaches us that the basis of life is what we control, and no one controls the action of the other, but it can control what tolerates. If you start a relationship without self-love, it has already begun at a disadvantage, because it will depend on the other to feel good. And that makes you fragile, vulnerable to crumbs, to any gesture. True love begins inside, and only those who love each other can love with freedom. The self-love is what makes you leave when everything in you wants to stay. This is what saves you from repeating patterns. This is what puts you back on the axis when the other takes you out of the center. And this love you don't find out. He is cultivated in everyday life, in silence, in choices. Love yourself enough not to be content with halves. Love yourself enough not to accept explanations that do not explain, not to insist where there is no effort, not to be diminished for fear of losing someone. Because whoever deserves you does not require you to breed themselves. You don't have to prove anything to be loved. You don't have to run after, to shape, to beg. The right love recognizes your value without you having to scream. And self-love is the daily reminder that you are enough even alone. Stoic sees love as virtue, not as necessity. And when you understand that, everything changes. Because stop seeking desperately out what was always inside. And this is freedom. This is maturity. This is dignity. Feeling missing it doesn't mean that it was good. Sometimes what is missing is just what has gotten used to you badly. The silence, the crumbs, the weight. And when that disappears, the void appears. But this emptiness is an invitation to healing, not a sign of return. Not everything that marked you deserves repetition. Stoicism teaches us not to confuse desire with necessity. Just because you want someone, it doesn't mean this person is good for you. And accepting it is difficult but liberating. Marco Aurelio said, "You have power over your mind, not about external events." What was. When we look honestly, we see that much of what we call longing was actually fear of being alone, fear of starting over, fear of not being enough. But you are, and it deserves relationships that nourish, not that suck, that they welcome, not that they test. The absence often reveals that we were present alone, that we fought alone, and that, by itself, is reason not to return. Because those who have not divided the weight with you do not deserve to walk by your side when everything is light. Love is not a unilateral effort. Stoic is not attached to what it was. He learns, feels, thanks, and follows. Because life is in the now. And as you look back, you lose what is coming. Sometimes the peace you want so much only when you let out what insists so much to hold on. If you missed, respect. It hurt, recognize. But if you have hurt you, release. You are not required to keep what you hurt you. Dignity is not to repeat cycles. To recognize that the memory should not become prison. And what longing is no sentence. Be kind to you. Do not blame yourself for feeling, but don't be deceived either to remember. Not everything that made you smile deserves new chapter. Life is made of choices, and choosing yourself, even if it hurts, is always the right way. When it is real, it is light. It does not mean it will always be easy, but it will be true. You will not need to beg for attention, nor strive to maintain alive conversations. True connections have roots. They do not depend on forced effort, but mutual presence. Stoicism values the essentials. And in relationships, the essential is the truth, respect, and constancy. The rest is ornament. Who wants to be with you shows. Who really feels, remains. And this is perceived, not forced. When you stop running after, it begins to observe who really walks beside you. And that changes everything. The masks fall, the intentions appear, and then it is clear who is affectionate and who is for convenience. The truth always appears at the right time. Genuine connections do not get sick. They heal. They raise. They don't make you feel less. No confusing. On the contrary, they give you peace. Because when it is real, it is safe. And when it is safe, you can be yourself without fear of not being enough. Do not beware. It must be offered with love, not torn with effort. If you need to prove yourself all the time, you are in the wrong place. Stoic retreats when you realize this, not as punishment, but as a preservation. Preserving yourself is wisdom. You deserve exchanges, not unilateral sacrifices. It deserves presence without charge, affection no doubt, company without fear. And when you understand that, your life changes. Because you start to attract what is as often as you have become. The conclusion is simple: maintain your dignity above the desire to be accepted. Don't live with crumbs. You were not made for little. You were made to love with truth and be loved the same way. And it only happens when you decide never to forget who you are. Now that you understand that Stoicism is much more than a distant philosophy, it is a practical guide to protect your emotional dignity, I make you a sincere invitation. What kind of relationship do you have cultivated with yourself? Have you chosen, or have you been abandoned, trying to please whoever does not notice your presence? Is it time to stop running after answers that never come? To stop accepting empty presences just so as not to face the silence? And if, instead of insisting on who diminishes you, you would invest in who raises you, starting with you? Your peace is worth much more than any message viewed and ignored. You deserve reciprocity, constancy, true, and you will only find it out there when you have it inside. So tell me, what are you going to do with everything you heard here today? If this content touched you in any way, if he helped you see something that was confused inside, then don't keep it just for you. Like this video, share with those who need to hear this truth, and especially subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. Every week you find deep reflections here that help you live with more clarity, strength, and freedom. You are not alone, and your transformation begins now.